Many people believe that what we do throughout the day has a greater impact on our health than what we do in the first hours of the morning. But that perception is far from the truth. There are silent habits, seemingly harmless, that many seniors maintain right after waking up, and which over time accumulate serious consequences. This isn't about scare tactics, but about information that can change the way you approach your routine. From actions that interfere with circulation to practices that weaken the immune system, the morning can be the starting point for both good and bad. Experts have observed that these patterns repeat frequently among people over 60, and the long-term results can be as subtle as they are dangerous. The most worrying thing is that these behaviors are often encouraged by old advice or simply by habits acquired over the years. Few realize it, but how you get out of bed, what you do in the first 10 minutes, and even how you breathe can directly influence your physical and mental health. We're not talking about complicated theories or impossible demands. They are small details that go unnoticed, but accumulate real impacts over time. And it was exactly this type of detail that caught the attention of doctors and researchers interested in understanding why so many seniors face the same challenges in such a similar way. If this content has already sparked some kind of curiosity or identification, take this opportunity now to subscribe to the channel and leave your like. This helps a lot to keep this type of information accessible to more people who, like you, seek to live with more awareness and quality. One of the most common mistakes starts even before the first step out of bed. Getting up abruptly, without respecting the time the body needs to activate circulation, can cause dizziness, falls, and even micro-lesions in the blood vessels. With advancing age, the cardiovascular system requires more care, and the act of simply sitting up slowly, taking a deep breath and stretching for a few seconds already represents a significant difference. Many ignore this care, believing they feel fine, when in reality the body is just compensating by reflex. In many cases, this haste upon waking is related to an old routine acquired during active life, when everything needed to be done quickly. Today, this rush turns into a risk, often invisible, but real. Another serious mistake is when the first meal of the day is skipped or done inadequately. Many seniors develop the habit of only having a black coffee, or in some cases, skipping breakfast altogether. This decision, which seems harmless, can deregulate metabolism and cause episodes of weakness, mood swings, and even an increased risk of type 2 diabetes. The body needs stable energy after the overnight fast, and neglecting this compromises cognitive and muscular functions. The intake of light proteins, fibers, and liquids first thing in the morning helps to activate the internal systems gently. Even if appetite is reduced with age, offering the body an adequate nutritional stimulus is a way to respect its rhythm and avoid unnecessary wear and tear throughout the day. The third mistake is more subtle, but even more common: excessive silence and isolation upon waking. Many seniors spend hours without exchanging a single word with someone or without any kind of positive auditory stimulus. This prolonged silence, when it becomes a pattern, directly affects mood, disposition, and even memory. The brain needs stimulation to stay active, and starting the day in complete silence can slow down important cognitive functions. Small gestures like listening to light music, talking to someone, or even speaking aloud to yourself help to activate areas of the brain linked to language and emotion. It's a simple practice, but it carries great preventive power against morning apathy and the persistent feelings of discouragement that affect so many seniors in silence. Edgar Cayce already warned, in his messages most focused on daily well-being, that the way one starts the day largely determines how vital energy is distributed throughout the hours. Although his words were spiritual, they reflect principles that modern science increasingly confirms. The absence of purpose first thing in the morning also falls into this list of harmful mistakes. Many wake up without knowing what they will do with the next few hours, living in an automatic mode, without small goals, without stimuli or motivations. This weakens the spirit and reduces mental clarity, creating a cycle where each morning seems the same as the last. Establishing small tasks, however simple they may be, such as caring for a plant, reading a passage from a book, or walking to the gate, rekindles the notion of control over one's own time. Among the mistakes that go most unnoticed is the immediate consumption of negative news upon waking up. Many seniors turn on the television, access social networks, or listen to radios that bring tragedies, conflicts, and problems from all over the world, all in the first minutes of the day. The emotional impact of this information, even if subtle, prepares the body for stress and raises cortisol levels unnecessarily. This doesn't mean living alienated, but rather learning to choose better what one consumes first thing in the morning. Opting for neutral, inspiring, or even educational content can make the day start more lightly. Morning emotional balance directly influences mood, concentration, and even how the body responds to everyday situations. How you feed your mind in the morning is as important as what you put on your plate. The sixth mistake, perhaps the most underestimated of all, is not drinking water upon waking up. After hours of sleep, the body is in a natural state of dehydration. And even knowing this, many people only consume liquids hours later, or replace water with drinks like coffee or industrialized juices. This lack of hydration can affect blood pressure, kidney function, and even the ability to concentrate. Drinking a glass of water as soon as you get up helps the body to wake up more efficiently, as well as aiding digestion and bowel function. It's a simple but powerful gesture that should be as automatic as brushing your teeth. When this becomes a habit, the body responds with more disposition and clarity, fundamental elements for those who wish to preserve health and autonomy in old age with quality. All these morning behaviors have one thing in common. They are done in automatic mode, often without awareness, and when they are repeated day after day, they become part of a routine that silently shapes a person's physical, emotional, and mental state. There are no magic formulas, but there is awareness. Understanding that the morning is a kind of foundation on which the rest of the day will be built is the first step to change. It's not about adopting a rigid routine or completely transforming habits, but about observing carefully and making small, consistent adjustments. Each morning choice, however small it may seem, carries the potential to favor or harm health. And the sooner this perception settles in, the more real benefits it can bring over time. It is common for many of these mistakes to originate from old advice, transmitted by generations that didn't have the knowledge we have today. Therefore, it is important to look critically at practices that have become part of everyday life, simply by tradition. For example, the habit of waking up and immediately starting to resolve pending issues or housework without preparing the body and mind is something that, despite seeming productive, overloads the nervous system. The internal pressure to maintain an active routine can generate more stress than well-being. Starting the day calmly, breathing deeply, mentally organizing what will be done, and respecting the body's own time is not a sign of laziness, but of wisdom. The quality of the morning defines not only mood, but also the energy available for the rest of the day, especially for those who no longer have the same vitality as decades ago. In addition, many seniors maintain a morning routine without variation, which may seem positive, but also brings harm. The brain needs different stimuli to continue developing, and small changes like altering the route of the morning walk, trying a new breakfast, or doing a different stretch already offer cognitive benefits. Extreme predictability, although it conveys security, can also reduce brain plasticity over time. The ideal is to find a balance between the stability that comforts and the novelty that stimulates. It is not necessary to change everything at once, but to introduce small variations that keep the brain in a state of slight alertness, which improves attention, memory, and even mood. It's a practical way to take care of the mind without relying on medications or complex therapies. Another frequently neglected aspect is contact with nature in the first hours of the day. Opening the window, feeling the wind on the face, getting some sun, or even caring for plants are attitudes that bring positive effects to the body and mind. Exposure to natural light early in the day regulates the biological clock, improves sleep at night, and increases the production of serotonin, a neurotransmitter linked to the feeling of well-being. Unfortunately, many seniors spend the entire morning in closed environments with little ventilation and artificial light. This physical and sensory isolation can generate feelings of tiredness, irritation, and even mild symptoms of depression. Being outdoors, even for a few minutes, is a valuable stimulus for the body. It's a type of free, accessible medicine that is often ignored out of pure habit. Another important point is the choice of clothing in the morning. It may seem trivial, but dressing carefully, even when there are no commitments outside the house, directly influences self-esteem and sense of identity. Many seniors end up opting for old, sloppy, or always the same clothes, believing that comfort should come before everything else. Although comfort is essential, it doesn't need to be dissociated from personal care. The act of getting dressed conveys to the brain the message that that day matters, that the person still has protagonism over their own life. This attitude reinforces self-esteem and can alter the emotional state immediately. When we dress as if nothing matters, the body and mind tend to respond with the same apathy. But when there is intention, even in dressing, the day gains another disposition. The way one looks in the mirror right after waking up also deserves attention. There are those who avoid this contact out of shame because they don't like the reflected image or because they simply don't see purpose in observing themselves. However, this brief moment of visual recognition is deeper than it seems. Facing the mirror with respect, even without makeup or hairstyle, is an exercise in acceptance and presence. Ignoring this reflection can be a symptom of detachment from one's own identity, something common in processes of lonely aging. A sincere look at oneself every morning can serve as a reminder that the person is still here, with history, value, and dignity. Small gestures like this are capable of rescuing a feeling of belonging and continuity that so many lose without realizing it. Many seniors also make the mistake of starting the day without any kind of creative stimulus. Creativity is not exclusive to young people or artists. It is present in any activity that involves imagination, curiosity, or personal expression. It can be writing a few lines in a notebook, drawing, embroidering, singing, or even putting together a puzzle. The elderly brain responds very well to these stimuli, and incorporating them first thing in the morning contributes to maintaining mental agility and emotional motivation. The great challenge is to overcome the initial resistance, the thought that it is too late to start something new. In fact, it is precisely at this stage of life that these activities make the most difference. They not only fill the time, but give meaning to it, creating a richer and healthier morning rhythm. The absence of personal rituals also represents a loss of connection with one's own time. Having a ritual, even if simple, like preparing a tea calmly, reading a page of a specific book, or lighting a scented candle while breathing deeply, helps to anchor the mind in the present moment. These small habits are not luxuries, they are emotional anchors that structure the day with meaning. The problem is that over the years, many seniors leave these gestures aside, believing that they are no longer necessary. But precisely at this stage, when the routine can become monotonous and time seems repetitive, these practices help to give color and shape to the days. Creating a moment just for yourself, intentional and calm, transforms the morning into something more than just a transition between sleep and obligations. Another behavior that deserves attention is the excessive use of electronic devices upon waking up. It is increasingly common for the cell phone to be the first thing touched in the morning, starting the day with an avalanche of notifications, messages, and information that is not always relevant or positive. This habit interrupts the natural process of mind activation and can generate unnecessary anxiety. The ideal is that the first minutes of the day are reserved for the body and the environment around, allowing the mind to wake up in its own time with softness. Reducing this morning digital impact doesn't mean giving up technology, but rather using it with more criteria. The quality of the day begins to be defined in these first moments, and protecting this space can represent a significant gain in balance and focus. Finally, it is important to understand that each small adjustment made in the morning can influence the entire day. The goal is not to turn the morning routine into a rigid checklist, but to awaken awareness about how habits silently shape health and well-being. When one realizes that many of the challenges faced over time have roots in these automatic repetitions, the desire to change grows. It is common to hear that aging is inevitable, but getting sick doesn't have to be. How the day starts is one of the few variables that are still under our control, even when so many others escape. And it is precisely in this control, however small it may seem, that the key to a more stable, more lucid, and above all, lighter life is found. Often when we talk about changing habits, we think of big transformations, but the true strength lies in the silent repetition of small attitudes. Throughout this video, we saw how seemingly simple decisions like drinking water upon waking or avoiding negative information can generate lasting impacts. The secret lies in consistency, not intensity. For those who have already gone through so many phases of life, understanding that it is still possible to improve the quality of the present is an act of courage and intelligence, and more than that, it is a gesture of affection towards oneself. No matter how old you are, there is always room to improve the way you live. Aging with awareness is a way to thank the body and mind for everything that has already been lived, and each morning is a new opportunity to reaffirm this commitment to one's own health. The curious thing is that these morning mistakes don't arise from bad intentions. On the contrary, they almost always stem from the desire to maintain a peaceful routine or to follow what has always worked. However, what worked 20 or 30 years ago may no longer make sense now. The body changes, the mind changes, and life also requires new strategies. Therefore, recognizing these patterns and questioning them is an exercise in wisdom. It is not about blaming yourself for what has been done so far, but about using current awareness to make better choices from now on. And in this regard, knowledge is a liberating tool. When you understand the why of each habit, it becomes easier to abandon it or adapt it. The important thing is to act with kindness, patience, and willingness to adjust the course whenever necessary. Edgar Cayce spoke of the importance of respecting the body's cycles and the connection between the physical and the mental upon waking up. According to him, the first actions of the day create an energy field that influences everything that comes after. Although his messages have a spiritual tone, they dialogue with what contemporary science confirms. Mornings define the rhythm of the body, the brain, and the emotions. The difference lies in looking at waking up not as a mechanical obligation, but as a sacred moment, where one plants what will be harvested throughout the day. It doesn't matter if you live alone, with family, or in a collective home. It is always possible to start the day with more care, more presence, and more awareness. And it is in this new look that the true power of the transformative morning routine lies. Getting this far already shows that you are willing to look at yourself more closely, and that, in itself, is a big step. By recognizing the mistakes that many make in the first hours of the day, you are not only avoiding damage to your health, but also opening space for a more intentional life. The morning routine doesn't need to be perfect, but it must be yours. Personalized, adjusted to your needs, respecting the time of your body and mind. Each choice made upon waking can reinforce autonomy, well-being, and even the joy of living. The secret is not to act on autopilot, but to cultivate presence. Because it is at this beginning of the day, when everything is still silent, that we have the chance to decide how we are going to live the following hours. And that, especially in maturity, is a privilege that deserves to be valued. If this content has helped you in any way, consider subscribing to the channel and sharing it with someone who can also benefit from this information. Sometimes, a single change of habit can transform the life of someone we love. Remember that no one needs to change everything at once, but starting is fundamental. Even the longest of roads begins with a step. And in the case of health, this step can be taken still in pajamas, with feet on the cold floor of the room, and the mind awakened to a new way of taking care of oneself. Don't underestimate the power of a morning. It can be the beginning of something much bigger than it seems, and if every day starts better, inevitably life also begins to change. Throughout this video, we have traveled together a path of recognition, awareness, and possibility of transformation. You have probably identified with more than one of the points addressed. This doesn't mean error, it means experience. And each experience brings with it the chance to start over. Life doesn't demand perfection, but attention. It doesn't ask for eternal youth, but real presence. And when you choose to start the day with respect for yourself, This respect spreads to all other areas of life. Thank you for following along. May your next mornings be lighter, more conscious, and more yours. And may, little by little, the small gestures build a routine that strengthens, welcomes, and transforms,